Hey guys, do you have an intuitive understanding that you can jump timelines, that you can quantum shift the actual fabric of reality? What I'm here to share with you today is uh, some aspects of my personal story where I'm going to try to convey to you that this is not only possible, but that this is a part of reality that we are collectively figuring out. We're learning how it works. Now, first, non-linear experiences that I had some 10 years ago completely perplexed my mind because I started to be able to manifest as a byproduct of doing a lot of meditation. So I was just meditating, I was focusing on myself outside of space and time, and then as a uh, effect of that, when I would come into my body and immerse myself into this first person experience, things would shift. And when I say things would shift, it would be like a non-linear, something that disrupts the linearity of my storyline. And I find myself in a reality that's slightly or very mind-blowingly intensely different. Okay. And even how to convey some of the things that I've experienced, because we use language for storytelling, and there needs to be like a congruent cause and effect to tell the story. So when I want to tell this in words, uh, it just sounds like I'm making it up, or it just sounds like pure fantasy. However, it was real experiences of something, like something already happened in some way, and then all of that rearranges, and it seems like it never happened, and nobody remembers that happened, and I'm in a different reality with a different outcome. Okay, so I'm just going to give a few examples, uh, and these were of healing, like effects of uh, desiring and actually even requesting or commanding to have something uh, come from a state of like a problem or ailment or a broken bone or something like this, to shift into a state where that was healed. Because at the time, I've dabbled in many different energy healing modalities. So what I can tell you right now, that we're all the time creating and editing our timeline. Okay. And everybody does it, and we're all manifesting all the time. The difference is that we think in linear terms. So when you are, let's say, having your day and you're thinking, oh, maybe I meet my friend in this or that restaurant later, and then you call them and you're like, do you want to meet me in this restaurant? And they're like, no, I prefer to have Thai. Why don't we meet there? And then you're like, I don't really feel like Thai, and then you choose another one, and your friend says, okay, let's do that one, and you're editing. You're editing your movie. However, we are coming from things that we assume are like normal, natural, and defaulted for us to believe in because we have experienced it many times. So we don't think, when we're planning our vacation or we're planning for our work, we're not thinking in terms of something that was not already defaulted in our information, like subconscious memory. Okay, so like we're just coming from what is already familiar. Okay, and I have a friend who told me this, like in the mornings I would wake up, and I have three kids, and like they would be all over the place, and the mornings were chaotic. And so by the time I get them to school and then I need to go to work, my mind is already like all over the place. So he said, so I would go in the evening and I would like imagine everybody just having a really peaceful morning, and then when I wake up, they're already packed. They're packed for school. They're having breakfast. They're being cool, and then I take them to school, and we have a really shanty morning. And this then becomes the reality, or this is the reality that he synchronizes in when he's editing or directing the movie of life, because we're all here co-creators, co-producers, co-directors. So I realize, to him this comes very naturally because he never really second guessed it, he never really doubted it, it came naturally to him, so he manifests that. Then I have another neighbor, and they said they're not into manifestation at all, but then they told me the story how once they were so worried, they're mom of two twins, and then they were so worried because the kids have caught something like a flu, and they had a really exhausting day managing all of that. And then in the evening, they got so tired, and they were like, God, please, 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 just like, please, just please, may they be healthy, okay? And so in the morning, kids woke up and they were in perfect health, and so there was no need to go to the doctor's appointment, and everything was well. So in this case, okay, it was like not something that you are like you create the architecture in your mind of how something's going to go or how something's going to flow. It was which I would call like more a masculine approach. It was a very feminine approach from just the emotion of love, of care that you have for somebody else, that you kind of like pray, and through that act of prayer, you access this higher level of organization. We can call that quantum level, or we can just call it the level where we're producing the reality, where we're creating the timelines. And then something shifts that is a little bit extraordinary, because in the linear flow, we don't expect that to just shift. Like the kids are very sick, okay, at the moment. And then we're just like planning already for the doctor tomorrow. And we're planning for a whole day of, taking care of that in whatever way is possible for us in the physical interaction or emotional interaction, okay, verbal interaction, how we are here. But when I'm talking about higher level of organization of reality, we all have access to that. And when we're planning for the vacation, we're planning for a dinner or lunch to meet with somebody, we're using that based on the assumption of what we can suppose to be like what we can assume, what we can predict, what we can think possible. So for me, I had a little bit of a different background, because in these energy healing modalities and practices that I was studying, I was reading many books, and I was also having clients and doing sessions where already informed from these authors and healers that I was learning from, you could shift a state of ailment through energy or different types of like accessing these higher levels of organization. You could shift, and people could have what on the surface would be like a miracle healing or a quantum shift. So the reality fabric, the reality structure would reverberate to whatever you're asking and kind of rearrange itself into a healed state. And based on my own then assumption and presumptions, I was actually trying to get things to rearrange in a different reality than the one that everybody's experiencing right now. And then oftentimes that would happen. And first and foremost, I start to have these experiences of glitches in time. And I think to mention them, I will mention a few. And guys, I will not mention the crazy ones, because I feel like if I just went and straight up spat out like all the crazy glitches in time or space-time fabric, whatever you want to call this reality construct, if I mention these, I think I would like lose my audience right here. You'd be like, okay, yeah, but like, yeah, sure, bro. So I will mention some, and even these that I'm mentioning are miraculous, but they're, I just think, more relatable. Yeah, highly crazy ones I will not mention here, but you can find out if you're jamming with me more and we come to a deeper level of understanding, then I will mention them. So for example, I said already, 10 years ago when I had this experience, they started to perplex me, and this is why I went and I was learning about metaphysics or spirituality or energy healing, because my brain didn't have the lexicon or the discourse to even like explain what happened. And through time, I found out that actually best type of explanation I can get from meditating. Like I would ask a question, and I would go to the same level of organization of reality where I'm also going to affect these quantum shifts, okay? Because you're not doing that when you're trying to exert your will or your desire at your physical circumstance, at your physical reality. You're going to another level. And on that level of organization, I could actually receive troubleshooting, like here's how it works. And then I would be shown, okay, this is some kind of mechanism, like metaphysical unseen mechanism, and this is how it works. And then I was like, oh, wow. And then I tried it and it worked. So every time I would have a client or I would have these weird scenarios happen, I would then learn also why it works. And then sometimes I was trying manifestation and it didn't work. And then I was also going there and like learning why does something not work, because it seemed like, okay, it works for this, and then you try it for something else and it doesn't, and I'm like, curious why. And so through more than 10 years of meditation and really learning about these things from inside, I've devised certain methodologies that anybody can use and they can work for anyone to affect this type of change. So I want to also tell you that right now, the things that seem to me mind-blowing and miraculous 10 years ago have become natural. Okay, it's not no miracle or something mind-blowing anymore, because now you understand the mechanism behind it and you start to just accept it as natural things. So my days are now full of shifts and kind of like miraculous events, but I don't even notice or register that as something extraordinary or like supernatural anymore. It's just become a defaulty way of seeing what life is. Yeah. And what I'm hoping also to do with this transmission is show you how to access these higher levels of organization and understand that in this first person experience, your consciousness, but in that higher level of organization is the same consciousness that is you, me, and everything else. So you're just learning how to operate the organization of reality, the organism, okay, of reality, not only from your first person witnessing and licking, touching, smelling, getting mad at circumstance or whatever, right? But you're also learning that there is this higher level of organization, and then you start to understand how it works. The more you tinker with that, the more obvious and natural all of that becomes. So the byproduct of what I'm sharing here is just going to be that you are allowing more miracles to happen, more synchronicities, more manifestation, more miracles. However, and I'm going to give some examples, okay, of like the work I did with myself is kind of crazy. And I'm still hesitant to share everything, but I will share some client work or something that I did with friends and what worked for them as examples. Okay, so one example, my partner had a traffic accident, and they broke the collarbone. So they did the X-ray, and it was really badly broken into like 3 pieces, and it's a tiny bone, so it was just fractured all over the place. And then the doctor said I went to see them in the hospital. They were very upset. The doctor said there that they need to implement surgery, metal screws, and then it's going to take 3 months to heal. However, they were disturbed, and they felt like they had so much resistance. They didn't want to go to the surgery. So I said there might be a different way to tackle this. And then when we went home, we did exactly what I do. And then when they had the X-ray in a week, okay, when they went to check up, there was like the bone without any fracture, and muscle and tissues around it was just like neat. So that was very relieving, okay. And I had another friend, and they're homeless actually. So we're just like in the street jamming sometimes, and they live in a very poor condition. Like their quality of life is like very poor, but they have like a big heart and they're very nice. And so they had trouble with like rotting. I think it's called gangrene. So I'm not actually a physician or anything like that, but they had a rotting, and their veins and bones were rotten and black. And so also they had the X-ray, and they were going to the hospital. Doctor said they're going to have to amputate the legs. So when they told me, I found it very troublesome, and they would not be someone who would actually like follow this, like what I'm sharing with you right now. I'm guessing if you're still here after 17 minutes, you're resonating with this information. You're probably witness synchronicities, you manifested things, and you're actually also eager to understand the actual mechanics of it, so you can use it more diligently, and it's just not like some kind of woo-woo or intuitive thing that maybe does not have the also rational explanation, and like sometimes works, sometimes not. So if you're that type of person, then you understand what I'm saying. However, to my friend, like explaining all of this stuff, that like it would be so out of their actually where they're living and like what's going on in their head. Like this would be like way out there. So I just went while we were having the conversation, and they were telling me about the impending amputation. I just went into an organizational level, and I said, okay, can we switch this? And then reality switched. I mean, like, it's no, I obviously haven't even processed that on an emotional level, because on a mental level, I just also, as I told you, I was like, okay, this is how it works, and I'm seeing that work all the time in different scenarios. But now, actually, when I'm telling you about this really touched my heart, because I haven't even processed how huge this is to be able to just really do something nice. And even for someone who's not even aware of that possibility. Okay? So, wow. Okay, that got me like a little bit that's touchy. I wasn't expecting that. Sorry. But yeah, testimonials, here we go. So, and sometimes, I fail to collect like testimonials from friends or clients that I work with, because sometimes the effect of this, and my business coach is like, Jovan, you got to have testimonials. Like, people are not going to come and like enroll into your educational programs, and you're just telling them like reality is like reality is quantum and like blah blah blah. You need to show them. There's like, oftentimes, guys, when I work with people, and sometimes was bringing people into meditation so they can go themselves. This is my method called the 0 point anchoring, where you can yourself go to that place where you are consciousness outside of space and time. And from that perspective, I guide people to ask themselves, who are you? Are you the first person, or are you just consciousness? Do you have any shape, form, or volume? At this question, people will respond, I'm just nothing, or I'm like everything and nothing, or I'm God. So they were like, explain that perspective from different words. And then I would say, from that perspective, can you shift what you are experiencing in the first person, that you come out of this perspective, come out of this meditation completely healed, or your like impeding prison sentence is somehow just like doesn't exist, that timeline where you go and you have to do time for something that's like ridiculous, and you were just in a victim consciousness scenario, and do you really need that experience on a soul level? Can you just let that go? And people who are depressed or sick, they just go like like, yeah, I'm God, like I can do that. So, and the method takes 2 minutes, and it's like super simple. So we did it I did it for my friend, and they were like doing some coaching. They were selling something. They had trouble to make sales because they haven't trained how to do sale calls or whatever. But how we did the anchoring, they anchored into reality where tomorrow they were sold out. And literally they didn't do anything on the phone calls. They were like, yeah, like I got you. They were just like there on the sale calls, and like every single potential client, they bought their service. So like it can help with that. I did it too many times to manifest like a timeline shift from being in circumstance where I can't access something to just accessing that, whether that was money or like, whatever. Like, this is more of what we talk in manifestation discourses when people want to manifest a house or money or something like this. So yeah, oftentimes I did that. Now, however, and business coach told me I should celebrate the victories of my clients, and I should give people who are watching this a reason that they can feel empowered, that they want to actually be able to access these things. So you want to have your family members blessed, protected, healed. You can access that. You want to also receive some kind of blessing, something that your heart desires, you can access, and kind of shortcut something that you're not seeing in the arrangement of your physical reality. You can invoke, you can invite those circumstances, you can invite those manifestations, and you can empower yourself. Okay, you can care for the people that you love on a higher level of organization, quantum level. And also, me here, I'm selling an educational product. However, I'm also not here just to sell something and make money. I'm here to educate you. Okay, me earning money from this thing that I've been investigating for 10 years, that I became informed about, that I can teach it and I can relate it to other people. Money is a great consequence, but my primary desire here is to educate, is to share. Also, like when I say to share the blessings, that I also get like emotionally triggered, and just to share the blessings, but for real, to share the blessings. So with that, I'm going to tell you just something where I'm going to criticize this what I'm like celebrating. Okay, I'm like selling you a horse, and it's like the best horse, the best racing horse. It's a miraculous horse. This horse can fly. This horse can shift reality. You will never have problems again. You will manifest millions of dollars, health for your family, everything, everything. Sure, I told you that this is possible, and I told you that I'm going to show you how it works. However, I'm just going to criticize because there is a complex organization of reality here. And I'm going to give you an example where it doesn't work, just to be completely, brutally, freaking honest with you here. So right now, I'm staying here with my parents. They're older people. They're really cute. They are in their own realities, and it's cool. We're like roommates, and we're jamming together. For example, my dad, he falls one day. So he's very old and kind of like, he falls and hurts his wrist. And now he's also an artist, so he paints, but now he can't move his hand. And you know what? I go into this organizational level of reality and I shift that. Just like my bro with the rotting legs and the other things I have failed to mention here. Okay, but let's just cut the chase. Tomorrow my father wakes up. He was saying in the evening he's going to go to doctor in the morning. Now it's fine. So success. Now the other thing is my mom. She breaks the hip. Also accident. Older people, stuff breaks. And now impending surgery. So they're going to replace the hip. I'm like, can we shift that on a higher level? And is like on a higher level organization is like, ask your mom. I'm like, hey mom, would you like to? She's like, no, Jovan, like this is real things. This is not your playthings. This is real things. I have to go to surgery. I'm like, okay. And then she has to go to surgery because the higher level of organization will respect the individual free will. And so sometimes, and this becomes like a little bit complex where I can't go into all of that right now, but in the curriculum, I will show you how you can, what questions to ask and what layers of permission you need to have granted for the quantum shift, for the timeline jump to take effect. So it involves, and if you know about manifestation, also it involves the free will of everybody. Okay, so you can manifest a lot of things that you don't tell anyone and just happening to you. But when you want to have other people and you want to manifest something together, it becomes more like a negotiation of what everybody agrees to, what everybody believes, what everybody expects, what everybody assumes to be possible. So there are limits here and there are workarounds. Okay, there are limits with manifestation and there are workarounds, which I have also created just methods of 3 steps, 5 steps, something that you remember, it become ingrained into your subconscious, it become your muscle memory, and you remember how to go with this, like ABCD, and then you know if you can get it, or you align the reality to show you a different way that's more aligned if you want to actually involve other people, or there's a better way, there's a more easier, I have an insect here, there's an easier way, then also the information becomes available for you, then maybe the original thing that you wanted to shift or manifest is hard to configure in the organization, in the larger organism, okay? But then different way can be shown to you that's more effortless, and you can just be like, oh, that solves my problem too, so let's go with that. So all of that being said, will this work for you? Absolutely, it's going to work. It's how nature works on a metaphysical level, but it is how it works. It's going to work for you to the level of your excitement, how invested you are into actually practicing and contemplating the information that I will share with you. And I will also show you self-inquiries and meditation and inquiries that you can do with these different layers of organization of consciousness. They are simple, they are fun. Also, in my school, in my community there, we have also Zoom calls where we troubleshoot. And so if you find something and you can't figure it out, we'll be there together to troubleshoot and answer your questions. Okay, so all of that being said, what I'm teaching here might be priceless because it extends to powers that are not even accessible in the physical reality. However, I created the price here that just reflects how much work, how much of my time, energy, and work I've put into like all of these years of meditation and like understanding how it works in order to be able to configure and present it to you in a way that's going to be simple and where you can understand and remember and just like have it click for you. I'm shortcutting your way greatly. And then also another thing is that once you have this, once you unlock this and you enroll and you have all the information available, you will have to invest your time and energy. So the price that we configured is just reflecting the level of your investment and the level of my investment. And if that is something that resonates with you, then we have an understanding and it's going to work for you too. Okay. So I'll see you on the inside and I wish you many blessings. Yeah.